This is Carrie Johnson with the Iowa Department of Management, and I'm going to do a quick webinar to help county governments understand how the process will work to amend current year budgets in the DOM online system. Just as a quick reminder, you do need to amend your budget if there is to be any increase in the total for any one of the 10 major classes of expenditures, service areas, listed on the adopted budget summary. The 10 classes are public safety and legal services, physical health and social services, mental health, intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities, county environment and education, roads and transportation, governmental services to residents, administration, non-program current, long-term debt service, and capital projects. And as a reminder too, your amendment must be effective before any of these expenditures amounts are exceeded. So in other words, you amend your budget before you expend. Budget amendments do require the same 10 to 20 day notice and hearing procedures as required for the adoption of the original budget. So essentially, you adopt your budget indicating to the public that you're requesting these totals in expenditures. If during that budget year you find that those expenditure limits are not sufficient for whatever reason, you do need to go back to the public and say, okay, we indicated for public safety that we needed $1 million in expenditures, but something has occurred and we actually need $1.5 million in expenditures. So you would go through that same process, prepare a proposed budget amendment, publish that amendment with the notice of public hearing, provide at least 10 and 20 days notice, hold your hearing so you can take any public comment on the amendment itself, and then close your hearing and your board would presumably adopt your budget amendment. Budget amendments are subject to protest. While budget amendments technically don't have a particular deadline during the fiscal year, keep in mind that an amendment of a budget after May 31st, which is then properly protested, but there's not adequate time for the state appeal board to hold a local hearing and decision on that protest before the end of the fiscal year, then that makes the amendment void. So certainly you can amend anytime during the fiscal year, but keep in mind that if you do amend it after May 31st, there's probably not going to be time to address a protest if a protest would happen on that budget amendment. Protesting a local government budget is covered under Code of Iowa 2427. Persons affected by the proposed budget expenditure or tax levy or by any item thereof may appeal the budget, or in this case, the budget amendment, by filing a petition and appeal with the county auditor of the county in which the local government is located. So your citizens can gather signatures. For counties, 100 signatures is the minimum requirement. They can gather signatures and submit a protest document to the county auditor to protest a budget amendment as well as a budget. Obviously, with an amendment, we're only dealing with expenditures. The tax levy would not be on the table for discussion. If an appeal or a budget protest is submitted, then the county auditor would forward the protest document to the State Appeal Board. The State Appeal Board is a 3-member body consisting of the Director of Department of Management, the Treasurer of State, and the Auditor of State. So if your amendment was protested, that would be submitted to the county auditor. The county auditor would take a look at the signatures, make sure there's enough signatures, and then forward that to the State Appeal Board. The State Appeal Board would then schedule a local hearing on the budget to hear, what the protesters have to say, as well as the rebuttal by the county on that amendment. And then they would render a decision on the amendment after that time. So in the budget amendment process, as well as the budget process, the role of Department of Management is to provide the forms, and that includes web-based forms. We provide the forms and instructions, and we also provide technical assistance for the folks that are completing the budgets and the amendments. So in order to access the forms, you're going to go to our website. Now, for years and years, what you've done is go to our website, and we have an Excel spreadsheet that you would simply download to your machine. Looks just like your budget summary page, and has that information. You plug in your budget information, what you're amending. It does a simple calculation to reflect the budget after amendment. You would publish that and adopt it, and you would submit it, usually scan and email it into Department of Management. So we're getting away from that Excel spreadsheet now. What we're going to do is to include the amendment process as a new form within the online budget system that you're currently using. And what the system will do, because we have obviously your fiscal 21 budget information, it's going to pull that information in for you into the amendment form, into the first column. So you'll be plugging in your changes to the budget, proposed changes to the budget in the middle column, and then it'll do the math for you. Overall, the form is going to look very much like your old amendment form that was on Excel, but again, it's going to populate the data for you, and it's going to be available online for you to work on, for you to make available to your citizens, etc. So just like you would if you were going to work on the budget, or if you're a person in the office that works on valuations, you would go to the Department of Management's website, dom.iowa.gov/counties. That's our sort of county resource page where we put all of our county information. Once on that web page, you would select the blue button titled Submit Valuations Budget and AFR, and we'll probably add Submit or Amend Budget to that actually down the road. You would use the same Enterprise A&A account ID to log into the online system as you did when you initially prepared your budget or worked in the valuation system. It's all the same account ID and password. Once you log in, on the left, you will see budgets and amendments. Once you start or complete an amendment, it will show up if you select amendments. But if this is the first time you need to actually amend your budget, you'll need to select budgets, because obviously you don't have an existing amendment in the system yet. So you'd go to budgets, and when you select budgets, you'll see on the main part of the screen your budget is displayed, and you can begin the amendment process in one of two ways. From this screen, you can select the amend button to generate the amendment form. So you can just click amend, and it'll generate the amendment form for you. Or you can click edit, which just takes you into your budget. There's not, a lot of changes you obviously can make to that fiscal year 21 budget, but you will see at the top now that there's a green amend button once you get into the budget. Once you click amend in either way, you'll see the following message. And it's just going to ask you if you're sure you want to create an amendment for this budget. If so, click OK to navigate to the amendment form. So you're not actually opening up your budget again in any way. It's simply going to give you an additional separate form that's going to look like amendment forms of the past, but it will be an online form. So you click OK, and just as a reminder, like I said, once you've actually started an amendment, if you save and log back in later, or you propose it, you go back in to adopt it, that sort of thing, that amendment will display if you select amendments on the left-hand navigation. So you've selected amend, and it's told you that it's going to generate the form. It does do so automatically, and it directs you to that form automatically, so it'll open it up for you. And the form, as I said, looks very similar to your adopted budget summary, which is, basically what your budget amendment form has always looked like in the past. It's going to populate in the first column all the information from the existing data, and you're going to make your changes into blue cells, right? So you're going to make your additions increases in these blue cells. You can, if needed, if you need to show a decrease, you can do so as you would normally do by showing a negative number in this middle column. So that option is still available to you if you need to show a decrease for one reason or another. The form does display your adopted budget summary, or if you've amended once already, and you've already completed an amendment all the way through, it's a certified amendment, it's all done, then it will show the amended information in the first column. So if this is, say, your second amendment, what you'll see in the first column, if this was your first and you're now doing your second, you'll see this information in the first column of that second amendment. So it will update for you. The second column, as I mentioned, is where you enter the amounts you need to increase by service area or class. Again, the form is the same, so the revenue information is provided there as well. If you need to make adjustments to revenue, obviously, statutorily, that's not required. You're required to show your increases in expenditures, but the same options are available to you as they have been in the past. And the third column is just going to sum for you and display your budget after amendment. You want to be sure to save progress and check errors. These items are up in the top right corner of your screen when you're working on the system. And be aware that you do need to enter an explanation on the bottom to explain your reason for amending the budget, or the system will display an error. So down at the bottom of the page, there's an explanation of changes box that you enter in whatever you would choose to, but just as a note, if you try to leave it blank, it will tell you that you can't publish your amendment. So you do need to enter something in there, minimum of 5 characters in that explanation field. Once you're done working in your amendment and you know your publication intentions, so you know where you're going to publish, go ahead and select the Propose Publish button on the top left. And this is very similar to how your budget worked, right? I mean, there's a Propose Publish button. You're going to enter in the time, date, and place of your hearing. The meeting location, I will tell you, we are offering more space now in the meeting location box because we know folks may be meeting electronically, and we're just giving you an opportunity to have some more space in that area if you need to enter more details. You can also hard return if you want to sort of, push that information down on different lines. So you can play with that a little bit and see how that works for you. But there is just in general quite a bit of space in that box if you need to enter electronic meeting information. And of course, you enter the contact person and phone number and you click Propose. The system is then going to download a PDF file. So you'll see a download generated, which is the PDF file, and you can save it on your machine, or you can go ahead and open it right away and use your print options on your browser to print it however you want to use it. And it'll look sort of like this, very similar to the past, but formatted slightly differently. You can also generate the hearing notice if you go to print in the top right and select print publication notice. So say you generated it, but you're not ready to print it off right now. You went ahead and proposed it, but you want to come back in later and print it off, what have you. Just go up to the print option and select print publication notice. And this selection also does generate a PDF for download. So once you have proposed the amendment, if needed, you can always return to draft at the top of the screen. If you need to reduce expenditures further, change that hearing date, it wasn't the date that you thought you were going to publish, if you need to do any sort of changes, or if you happen to need to reduce expenditures further, or really make any other changes or make a correction before you actually adopt. So you would just return to draft. Again, it's going to open up your amendment for you so you can make any changes you need to do. You would need to, once you're done making your changes, you do need to save again, and you would need to propose publish again just to keep it moving through that process. If by chance you're just making a simple change and it wasn't a change to the publication information, then you'd leave that same publication information in there when you propose publish. Of course, submit your notice of public hearing to your papers, and reminder that you must provide notice not less than 10, no more than 20 days prior to the date of your public hearing on the amendment, just as you did with the budget. It's really the same requirement. So when your governing body has approved the budget amendment, you're going to go back in and select Adopt at the top. You'd enter the date that your board approved the amendment and select Adopt. So it's going to give you that option right there, and you select Adopt. Clicking Adopt prompts the system to then download a PDF file that, again, you can save on your machine, print it, what have you. And this is a file that your board can sign to verify approval of your amendment, because it's going to show that adopted date on there, and it's going to have a signature line. You can also go to the top right and print, go to the top right under print and do a print adoption at any point. So you can, do it at the moment that you generate the adoption, or you can go in at any time later and just do a print adoption. Budget documents that are filed with the auditor for your amendment, you do need to provide the proof of publication for the budget amendment notice and the signed adopted budget amendment. As with budgets, your amendments are approved by resolution. So although that's not a required document to file, it is a good document to have on hand and keep in your own files for reference that was adopted by resolution. You do not need to send any documents to Department of Management. We're going to access the amendment via the online system. So you don't need to scan anything and send it to me. I can see in the system when you've done an amendment, and I can access all the information in that way. Your county auditor then does verify publication and other requirements and will certify your amendment via the online system. Similar to how county auditors certify budgets in the online system, they're going to also certify these amendments in the online system. Once your county auditor has certified your amendment on the online system, if you log back into the system and pull up your amendment, you do see that your status has now changed to certified. So instead of saying in progress, what have you, it will now say certified. So just kind of be aware that you can see your amendment move through the process. If you need to complete a subsequent amendment later in the fiscal year after your first amendment has been approved, you'd log back into the system, bring up that first amendment, and just select Amend again. And you'll get the following message. It's going to tell you that a certified amendment already exists for this budget, and are you sure you want to create a new amendment? If so, click OK to navigate to the new amendment form. So you're going to go, if you select OK, it's going to generate a new amendment form for you. It's going to pull the far right column information from the first amendment and populate that into the first column of your second amendment. So it'll pull that information forward for you. And then you can proceed to work on that second amendment. And the process then with the second amendment from there on is the same as it was for the first amendment. The system will number your amendments, and as I mentioned, pull the information forward for each subsequent amendment. And as I mentioned too, the amendments will be available, just like the budgets are, on the public-facing side of our website. So if you have folks that want to access that information, you can point them to our website for a quick and easy way to see your amendments and your budgets, as well as your financial reports too. If you have any questions regarding the amendment process or the new way to access it via the online system, please contact me. My number is listed there, and you can also contact me by email. Thank you.